Hey drumheads, Little Drummer Boy here, and tonight I want to do a movie review of Ford versus Ferrari. Now this is a movie I was looking forward to seeing for a long time, and I was not disappointed. It was very good. Most of you guys that are in hot rodders or into racing, into muscle cars, you know the story of Ford versus Ferrari. The gist of it is, I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but the gist of it is Ford, through Lee Iacocca, tried to buy Ferrari in the early 60s when Ferrari was having financial troubles, and Ferrari would not sell to Ford. They sold to Fiat instead for more money, and they didn't want to sell to an American company. Mr. Ferrari was very prideful about it. So anyway, Henry Ford II, the president of Ford, the grandson of Henry Ford, the son of Edsel Ford, Henry Ford II, longtime president of Ford Motor Company, through its most tremendous years of growth, really. Ford was also having financial trouble in the early 60s, so he didn't get to buy Ferrari, and Mr. Ferrari said some pretty bad insults about Henry Ford II when he turned down the deal. So Henry Ford II hired famed race car driver and car designer, sports car designer, Carroll Shelby, who had taken a British-style two-seater body and put Ford V8s in it, big Ford V8s, and came up with the Shelby Cobra, the AC Shelby Cobra, and of course later started customizing Mustangs into Shelby Mustangs. So Ford hired Carroll Shelby to beat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and he gave him a blank check, wound up spending $69 million to beat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And anyway, it's the story of it. And I should have put some chapstick on my lips. I'm sorry, I'm just noticing that. But it's definitely not a chick flick. If you're a guy and you like cars, now a lot of these millennials today, I don't know if they'll like it or not, because they don't seem to be into cars the way we were growing up. But if you're a guy, if you're a gearhead, you like racing, you like muscle cars, and even if you like the history of cars, you will like this movie. It's definitely not a chick flick. Most chicks will not enjoy it. I do have a friend on Facebook. She drives a Dodge Challenger RT. And actually, I found out about this movie because she shared the trailer on her Facebook. And so there are some ladies who will enjoy this movie, but most of them will not. Now, guys, if your lady loves you, she'll go along with you just to spend the evening with you. And there's a love story and a family's involved, So the ladies will like that aspect of it anyway. But if not, if they don't want to go, hey, you save yourself $5 on the ticket and, at least another $5 or $10 on concessions. So it's a win-win either way. The movie stars, I've got my notes here. It stars Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby, Christian Bale as Ken Miles, who is the driver that Carroll Shelby hired for the project of beating Ferrari. His wife is played by hang on a second, Katrina Balfrey. I guess that's how you pronounce it. It's Italian, I think. And she played Molly Miles, Ken Miles' wife. And Lee Iacocca is played by John Bernthal. Of course, Lee Iacocca was, behind the Ford Mustang and really saved Ford in the 60s, and then as a designer later saved Chrysler in the 80s, and he just died about a year ago. Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby, Christian Bale as Ken Miles, and Henry Letts as Henry Ford II, because he was a pivotal character in the movie too, because, it was him trying to get revenge on Ferrari that led up to the whole racing against Ferrari with Fords and the GT40 project. So, great movie. I would give it 4 stars. I would give it 5 stars, except it's a PG-13 movie. It's supposed to be kid-friendly, right? But both Carroll Shelby and Henry Ford II and probably other actors in the movie, other characters in the movie, take the Lord's name in vain on several occasions. I don't remember hearing the F word, and not that I'm real legalistic about that anyway. That's, like the F word's a made up English word. The Bible doesn't mention it. It does say not to take the Lord's name in vain. So there's GD in there a few times by Carroll Shelby and Henry Ford II. Now, they may have really talked like that. Look, I'm a trucker. I've heard it all. So it's not surprising to me. But if it's going to be a PG, I'm all for movies being realistic. I don't expect a war picture with no cussing. But if it's going to be a PG-13 film, they shouldn't be dropping the Lord's name in vain, or GD. I've heard some people say that's just a misdirected prayer to God because you're angry at the time, that it's not really taking his name in vain. You're calling on him, but it doesn't come out right. So there's different ways to look at that too. But I don't think that was appropriate for a movie that's supposed to be kid-friendly. All right. So I didn't like that part of it. The soundtrack could have also been stronger, especially because it was a car movie, a racing movie in the mid-'60s. I think it would have been a lot stronger a soundtrack if they would have had more car songs and drag songs by like the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean, like Drag City, Dead Man's Curve, Shut Down by the Beach Boys. There was a plethora of great drag songs back in those days, racing songs that they could have used instead of playing Pork Salad Annie over and over again. And they only played the instrumental version too. I never heard Elvis singing it. I don't think it was the Elvis original, but anyway, they kept playing Pork Salad Annie over and over, which, been in the mid-'60s, I thought, and they did have, I will say I didn't recognize the song, but I read in the credits, they did have a surf rock song written by Dave Marks of the Beach Boys, the lost Beach Boy, Dave Marks. They had one of his songs in there, but I didn't recognize it. And none of the songs they played more than a few bars. I mean, I don't even think they played a whole verse of any song. So it could have had more music, and it could have had more car songs. That would have fit it. Little GTO, there's so many. But Little GTO by Danny and the Daytonas. There's so many great car songs that would have fit this movie. And Matt Damon, I'm surprised somebody as rich as him and a great actor that he is, he needs to learn how to pronounce Porsche. That got on my nerves that he called Porsche Porsche. And it's a German last name, Butzi. Ferdinand Porsche started the company. Hitler been a socialist. Nazi was short for National Socialist. Hitler stole the first Porsche company, renamed it People's Car, Volkswagen in German, Volkswagen, which it amazes me that there's still a car. People want to tear down Confederate statues, but there's still a car that has the name that Hitler gave it. Go figure. Anyway, so, to me, the name should have went back to Porsche. And, of course, the Porsche Top 34, the original Bug, later I hate the word evolved, but it later evolved into the Porsche 911. Oh, and that was another funny thing, too. Not only because I had a Porsche before, and the company pronounces the name Porsche. So that's how the Porsche family name is pronounced, not Porsche. It's a pet peeve of mine when people say that. But anyway, I was really surprised that in this movie somebody would mispronounce Porsche, one of the greatest cars of all time. But enough of my tangent about that. Another thing funny about Porsche, though, at the start of the movie, now this is where they Hollywooded it up, and it wasn't very accurate at all, because at the start of the movie, Matt Damon, Carroll Shelby, is driving this beautiful red Porsche 356 Roadster. You know, they were the Porsches made from 1948 when the Porsche sports car company started till the 911 came out in 1964. And you know, and he's talking in the background about how cars, these sports cars, they do ride at 7,000 RPM, and you can hear it when he cranks it. Okay, the Porsche 356 had the same engine as the Volkswagen Beetle. You know, he cranks it, it's like, you know, it sounds like a Beetle when he cranks it, right? They topped out around 90 miles an hour. I think there was a Porsche 356 Speedster that was modified that would do maybe 120, 130, something like that. So maybe this was a Porsche Speedster, but no 356 with the flat 4 Volkswagen engine in it ever hit 7,000 RPMs. And when he took off, the way he was driving it and stuff, and it sounded like a 911. And I was just kind of laughing. I'm like, that car did not have that kind of engine. It didn't sound like that, and there's no way it had enough power to be driving it the way he was driving it in the movie. So I just thought that was funny. Hollywood kind of, people that know their cars will know that a 356 Porsche didn't sound like that. It sounded like the bug engine that it was cranked as. But when he took off in it, it didn't turn $7,000, and it didn't go, you know, it didn't have that kind of Porsche purr to it. The original 356 did. That came later with the 911 and the flat 6. But anyway, other than that, man, it was a great movie. If it wasn't for the cussing in a children-friendly film, the use of the Lord's name in vain, accurate or not, whether, you know, they really talk like that or Hollywood did. Henry Ford II kind of had a rough reputation, and apparently, because Henry Ford II, and I'm not casting these stones because I don't have any to throw on the subject, but Henry Ford II, one time he got a DWI in his Lincoln. And Carroll Shelby, from what I was reading when I was researching this, he was married 7 times, I think. Yeah, 7 times. More than Mike Love of the Beach Boys. I couldn't believe it. But, so yeah, they probably did use language like that, but it shouldn't have been PG if they were going to use curse words like that. So, all in all, great movie. If you're a guy that loves cars, even a girl that loves cars, most of you don't. You like cars, but you don't know how they work, or, you know, you don't know how to work on them, and you don't necessarily like racing. But if you're a gearhead of either sex, you will enjoy this movie. If you like history like I do, you may enjoy this movie, especially if you like car history. Anybody that's a buff of old cars, classic cars, antique cars, and racing history, you will dig this picture. And I don't want to spoil it for you, so most of you, if you're into this kind of thing, you already know how the story ends. But that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's a great movie. Go see it. It's long. It's about 2.5 hours long once you get past the trailer and they actually get into it. Surprisingly, I went to the matinee and the theater was pretty much empty, which I like, because I can't stand, I don't know whoever came up with the idea that popcorn is a good idea in a theater. It's just so noisy, and the bags are noisy, and I just can't stand that crinkling bag sound, you know, when people are doing that and or talking and lighting up their phones. So the less people you got to watch it with, the better. So I don't know how it's doing at the box office, but I know that it was an empty theater at the matinee. And whereas Midway, go check out my review for Midway, excellent movie. Midway was packed out. I mean, you really had to use your reserve seat in Midway, because it was it was like sold out when I saw it at the matinee. So anyway, check out my my video review from Midway. I would link to that, but I don't know how to do that yet, y'all. I'm new here, so bear with me. Hopefully I'll progress and get better as my YouTube channel grows. And I hope you like this movie review. I give it a thumbs up. Go see Ford versus Ferrari, and I hope you have a blessed day. Peace.